Regionally, Liat loses appeal and must pay former employee over US $1.5 million. Internationally, shoe giants urge President Trump to end tariffs. And in sports, Eastern Conference Finals, Toronto Raptors beat Milwaukee Bucks to tie series. We'll have the details to these and other stories after this message.
Another look.
Different from how you've seen it before.
Another look.
Takes an in-depth look into business, politics, science, technology, religion, and more.
Another look.
Featuring documentaries from the BBC, regional features, and local ones too.
Another look.
Every Monday at 3 p.m. on the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse, Vaughan.
Welcome back and now on to the national news in detail.
We have written to Social Security supporting a request by Four Seasons that no Social Security deductions be taken from the 25% payment to affected workers over this 4-month temporary closure. We have also written to Social Security advising that the government will forego any social services levy and that no deductions be made from the 25% payment to workers.
Premier of Nevis and Minister of Finance, the Honorable Mark Brantley. Mr. Brantley was at the time speaking during a sitting of the Nevis Island Assembly on Tuesday, May 21st. He was also providing further details with regards to the temporary closure of the Four Seasons Resort Nevis. To provide some background, back in December 2018, the Premier announced during the presentation of the 2019 budget that the resort will be closed for 4 months as of June 1st, 2019 and return to work in October 2019. Moreover, over 400 workers will be impacted but will receive 25% of their salaries. Employees who find work elsewhere in the meantime will still receive 25% of their salaries. Premier Brantley also stated that the resort will keep its workers and that the government has advised banks about the situation.
The resort has made it clear to the government its desire to hold on to its workers and ensure their job security when the resort opens in October 2019. We have also written to all the local banks and financial houses seeking their cooperation and indulgence to forego payments by affected workers on any loans or other financial commitments owed by such workers during the 4-month closure.
The Honorable Mark Brantley. 9 days before the official start of the 2019 hurricane season, subtropical storm Andrea formed over the western Atlantic about 335 miles southwest of Bermuda Monday evening. According to the National Hurricane Center NHC Miami, its maximum sustained winds remained at about 40 miles per hour until late Tuesday morning. NHC stated in an 11 a.m. advisory that it had decreased to 35 miles per hour from a tropical storm to a subtropical depression. At this time, the NHC has not announced any coastal watches or warnings, but they have advised that Bermuda should still monitor the progress of the system. In spite of the storm's formation, earlier this year, officials said that the upcoming Atlantic hurricane season, which begins on June 1st, is forecast to show slightly below normal activity. The NHC also indicated that tropical cyclone formation is not expected during the next 5 days. The next tropical storm that develops in the Atlantic will be called Barry. For us here in St. Kitts and Nevis, as well as the wider region, the 2019 hurricane season will have 13 named storms, 5 hurricanes and 2 major hurricanes with winds of above 178 kilometers per hour. In police news, lawmen are investigating a shooting incident which occurred on Tuesday, May 21st in the Deep Bay area in St. Kitts. According to a police press release, they responded to a report of gunshots being fired in the Deep Bay area at the home of Curtis Mitchell at about 11:45 p.m. Thus far, investigations have revealed that gunshots were fired into the house by an unknown assailant. The house was occupied at the time, but no one was injured during the incident. Members of the crime scene unit visited and processed the scene. Items of evidential value were taken into police custody. Therefore, anyone who has information relating to this incident is asked to contact the Violent Crimes Unit VCU at 467-1887. In more police news, a service weapon is now back in custody after it was temporarily lost during an operation. Last Friday, May 17th, officers from the Charlestown station, while on patrol, visited a local bar where an incident ensued. A report from the police states that during the incident, officers restrained a number of persons who were resisting arrest and took them into custody. As a consequence, an officer's service pistol fell from its holster and was not found after the incident was brought under control. An investigation was subsequently launched, which led to the retrieval of the pistol on Monday, May 20th. No one was charged in relation to this incident. The next junior tourism minister for Nevis was selected as the 2019 Bank of Nevis Limited Tourism Youth Congress was held on May 21, 2019 at the Nevis Performing Arts Centre, NEPAC. That's actually the Nevis Performing Arts Centre, or NEPAC. The VOA Newsline spoke to the coordinator of the Tourism Youth Congress 2019, Ms. Oksana Williams, regarding the categories by which the next junior tourism minister was selected.
We have 5 categories. The judging criteria includes the knowledge of the subject area, level of preparedness, presentation skills, relevant content, and appropriate use of audiovisual aids, because they had to provide a multimedia presentation as well with their speeches.
This year's competitors were 2 students from each secondary school on the island of Nevis, namely Charlene Myers and Alicia Kelly from Gingerland Secondary, Donella Thompson and Brianni Chapman from Charleston Secondary, and Sharonique Reed and Ebony Liebert from Nevis International Secondary School. Ms. Williams went further to explain that teachers from the various schools had to narrow down the students that wanted to participate and select the best 2 that would represent their school in the Youth Congress.
Some of the teachers actually had to choose from a big group of students that were interested. And I find that this year's students were very open. They were really willing. They came to all the preliminary activities, and this year we got some really good presentations, better than before.
Ms. Oksana Williams. Brianni Chapman, who was selected to be this year's Junior Tourism Minister, will be representing Nevis at the Caribbean Tourism Organization Board of Directors meeting being held in St. Vincent. Digital Economy Moonshot for the Eastern Caribbean. That is the name of the 2-day regional conference that the chairman of CARICOM and St. Kitts and Nevis's Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, will attend. Prime Minister Harris was also invited to the conference by the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank ECCB and the World Bank. The forum will be held from Thursday, May 23rd to Friday, May 24th at the World Bank headquarters in Washington, D.C. The Digital Economy Conference aims to discuss various aspects of the digital economy, ways to advance the services within the digital economy throughout the Eastern Caribbean by building on the experiences and needs of the countries. According to the Forbes, the digital economy is a young, dynamic $3 trillion ecosystem based on technological infrastructure, increasingly intuitive devices and interfaces, vast audience networks, a whole new medium for advertising, and an unlimited supply of content. This conference will also help to inform an action plan for a regional project to be supported by the World Bank. And lastly, in our national news segment, Range Developments has sponsored a new award for nurses which will be granted on a monthly basis. The Range Nursing Award, which was introduced by the government of St. Kitts and Nevis, will be for 3 nursing personnel within the institution-based health services of St. Kitts. The award will encourage positive work ethics among nursing personnel. Each recipient will also receive a set cash award for their efforts. The 3 awardees for the month of March are Miss Isilma Wilkin, Miss Elsa Liddy, and Miss Zelma Morton. A special awards committee, which comprises of individuals within the Ministry of Health and related stakeholder agencies, has been convened in order to oversee the whole process and select candidates who meet the eligibility criteria and requirements of the award. Range Developments is an award-winning property developer in the Caribbean. And that's it for our national news segment. You can visit our website at www.vonradio.com, or you can check us out on Facebook at Von Radio or our Von Radio YouTube channel for these and other stories. Regional news comes up next.
Ladies and gentlemen, this here's another one for the steppers.
Swipe to win big in 2019. That's right, the Bank of Nevis Limited is once again giving you, our valued customers, a chance to win big. Just swipe or use your Bond Visa credit card for US $100 for a chance to win a cruise for two, an iPhone XS, or a grocery dash at Best Buy supermarket.
Say what?
Sign up for a Bond Visa credit card and automatically be entered for a chance to win. This offer ends August 31st, 2019. So tell your friends and family, just swipe to win big with the Bank of Nevis. The Bank of Nevis Limited, improving the quality of life. Like us on Facebook or follow us on Instagram.
Welcome back on to the regional news. A former employee in the United States Virgin Islands USVI, who was forced out of the regional airline Liat because of his age, will receive over $1.5 million from the airline company. He was 71 years old when he was dismissed on June 4, 2015, without notice, with the company accusing him of violating company policy on 3 occasions. During his 47 years at the company, Cherubin had risen from a job as a ticket agent to manager of ground operations. The Antigua-based company had appealed a decision by a jury in February to award William Cherubin US $1,551,320 in damages. However, Justice Douglas Brady of the USVI Superior Court has dismissed the appeal and ordered the airline to pay the money. Cherubin took the cash-strapped airline to court, claiming he had been fired because of his age, contrary to Liat's claim that it was because of poor performance, which was in contravention of the Virgin Islands Civil Rights Act, which prohibits discrimination of employees on the basis of age. Justice Brady said in his ruling that the totality of the trial evidence was sufficient to permit a jury to interference that Liat's preferred reasons for Cherubin's dismissal were false. Cherubin's supervisors had urged him to take the offer, telling him he was over the typical retirement age. However, he decided to continue working. People who waste water in Jamaica amid an ongoing drought could be fined or face time behind bars. The National Water Commission, NWC, has moved to make it a prosecutable offense to either waste water or use excessive amounts of its potable water for non-essential purposes. In a prohibition notice published in the newspapers on Tuesday, which takes effect on Friday, the NWC said that more stringent water conservation measures must now be observed, and the limited potable water that is available should be reserved for essential uses such as drinking, cooking, washing, bathing, and sanitation. Some of the breaches of the prohibition order are using NWC supplied water in drought-affected areas for watering of gardens, lawns, grounds and farms, refilling of tanks, ponds, and swimming pools. Persons who break the law may be prosecuted, and if convicted, they are liable to a fine imposed by the parish courts or imprisonment for up to 30 days if they fail to pay the fine. Still in regional news out of Trinidad, the 2 prison escapees who remain on the run have released a video claiming they were framed for double murder and pleading with the authorities to investigate their claims. Olatunji Dembo and Michael Finley are the only two still inmates at large, following the recapture of the other 6 prisoners who broke out of the Golden Grove prison last Wednesday. The duo is accused of the murders of Andre Latoche and Abiola Noel, who were killed at their home in February 2016. In a video posted on Facebook, they said they wanted their names cleared. Out of the Turks and Caicos Islands, some 3,402 illegal persons have been removed from the country over the past 16 months, so says Deputy Premier the Honorable Sean Astwood. He said that out of this amount, for the period January 18 to April 2019, exactly 1,414 persons were picked during land-based enforcement activities. He noted that Operation Guardian was the single largest effort undertaken to target irregular persons living and working within the TCI in the history of these islands. Mr. Astwood said the Immigration Enforcement Unit continues to perform business and community compliance and inspections on a daily basis, and some of these inspections were supported by the Employment Department, and they have seen the success of this approach. And lastly, in our regional news segment, Guyana is not expected to pay a huge guaranteed subsidy to the Antigua-headquartered regional airline LIAT because of a significant number of travelers continue to fly to and from this destination. The disclosure was made even as Barbados indicated that it was willing to sell its shares in the cash-strapped regional carrier, which serves the Caribbean from Guyana in the south up the island chain to the Dominican Republic in the north. LIAT's corporate communications manager Shamar Maloney told an interactive session with travel agents and the media that talks were continuing with the Guyana Civil Aviation Authority about implementing the minimum revenue guarantee. Guyana is among 11 of the 15 destinations that have been asked to pay the guarantee, but Maloney was quick to point out that Guyana would not have to pay a large sum of money. And that's it for our regional news segment. Stay with us for news around the world. Welcome back on to the international news. Some of the world's biggest footwear firms are urging President Donald Trump to end the U.S. trade war with China, warning of a catastrophic effect on consumers. A letter signed by 173 companies, including Nike and Adidas, says the president's decision to raise import tariffs will affect the working class. They also warn that higher levies threaten the future of some businesses. Mr. Trump says that the trade deficit with China hurts the U.S. economy. The U.S. president increased levies on $200 billion worth of Chinese imports into the U.S. from 10% to 25% more than a week ago after Washington and Beijing failed to reach a deal on trade. China retaliated by announcing plans to raise levies on $60 billion worth of U.S. imports from June 1st. The footwear companies that signed the letter, including Clarks, Dr. Martens and Converse, say that while the average U.S. tariff on footwear is 11.3%, in some cases it can reach as high as 67.5%. A ceremony has been taking place in western Belarus to rebury the remains of more than 1,000 Jewish people murdered by the Nazis in the Second World War. It follows the discovery of a mass grave in the city of Brest. The BBC's Danny Eberhardt reports.
Adolf Hitler's regime wiped out Brest's once thriving Jewish community. His troops invaded the city in 1941 when they swept into what was then Soviet-occupied Poland. Those that weren't killed in the immediate aftermath were confined behind barbed wire in a ghetto. But in October 1942, the order came to murder them, nearly 18,000 people. Only a tiny handful of individuals survived in hiding. Jewish groups say after the war in Soviet times, the massacre was a taboo subject.
UK-based chip designer ARM has told staff it must suspend business with Huawei, according to internal documents obtained by the BBC. ARM instructed employees to halt all active contracts, support entitlements, and any pending engagements with Huawei and its subsidiaries to comply with a recent U.S. trade clampdown. ARM's designs form the basis of most mobile device processors worldwide. In a company memo, it said its designs contained U.S. origin technology. As a consequence, it believes it is affected by the Trump administration's ban. One analyst described the move, if it became long-term, as an unsurmountable blow to Huawei's business. He said it would greatly affect the firm's ability to develop its own chips, many of which are currently built with ARM's underlying technology for which it pays a license. Finally, in our international news segment, in the UK, Commons leader Andrea Leadsom has quit the cabinet, saying she no longer believes the government's approach will deliver Brexit. Her resignation comes amid a backlash against Prime Minister Theresa May's Brexit plan from Conservative MPs. Several cabinet ministers have told the BBC that the Prime Minister cannot stay, with one saying it is the end of the line. Mrs. Leadsom previously ran for Tory leader but withdrew, allowing Theresa May to become Prime Minister. In a letter to the Prime Minister, she said she did not believe the UK would be a truly sovereign United Kingdom through the deal that is now proposed. She also described holding another referendum as dangerously divisive and said she was opposed to the government willingly facilitating such a concession. Mrs. May has offered MPs a chance to hold a vote on another referendum if they back her withdrawal agreement bill, the legislation needed to implement the agreement between the UK and the EU on the terms of Brexit. And that brings us to the end of our news segment. The latest in sports is next.
See you, John.
Betty, how come you never tell me what's going on up at TDC?
Well, I'm glad you asked because TDC Automotive has some awesome deals. Get the car and use spare tire for just $100 plus VAT. And they have selected tires for 30% off. And for the Jeep, if you buy a selected Goodyear tire, you can get a second one for just $99.
Well.
And not finished yet. They're offering up to 30% off selected Valvoline oils and universal car mats and a whopping 50% off Energix batteries.
TDC Automotive not making no joke. I going up there now.
Welcome back and now on to the sports. In basketball, the Toronto Raptors beat the Milwaukee Bucks 120-102 in Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals to tie the series 2-2 on Tuesday night. Raptors point guard Kyle Lowry, 33, scored 25 points including 18 in the first half. Meanwhile, the Raptors had a 19-point lead in the third quarter and carried a 13-point margin entering the fourth. Game 5 will be played on Thursday in Milwaukee, with the winner of the best-of-7 series set to face reigning champions, the Golden State Warriors, in the NBA Finals. In football, plans to expand the 2022 World Cup to 48 teams have been abandoned by FIFA. FIFA President Gianni Infantino said last year the expansion from 32 teams could be brought forward from 2026 to 2022 tournament in Qatar. The change would have required Qatar to share hosting duties with other countries in the region. World Football's governing body said after a thorough and comprehensive consultation process, the change could not be made now. FIFA also said it explored the possibility of Qatar hosting a 48-team tournament on its own, but has decided not to pursue those plans as there was not enough time for a detailed assessment of the potential logistical impact. In local cricket, the second match of the ongoing 40 overs per side tournament, being hosted by the Nevis Cricket Association and sponsored by Nagico, was played on Sunday, May 19th at the E.T. Willett Park. The Empire Eagles came up against the All-Stars Flamingos. The Eagles won the toss and chose to bat first. Here are the summarized scores. Empire Eagles 135 all out in 24.2 overs. Akito Willett 39, Justin Anderson 29, Trishawn Francis 28, Shelton Forbes 6 for 40, Junior Williams 3 for 32, Jaheim Clark 1 for 15. All-Stars Flamingos 139 for 5 in 19.2 overs. Ross Powell 57, Jelani Manners 22, Junior Williams 21, Zavero Forbes 14 not out. Gian Griffin, T1 Prentice, Trishawn Francis, Tijari Clark and Kenny Possard all got 1 wicket each. All-Star Flamingos won by 5 wickets and the man of the match was Shelton Forbes. In cricket, West Indies will continue their preparations for the ICC Cricket World Cup 2019 with a training camp in Southampton, England from May 19th to the 23rd. The original West Indies schedule was based in Bristol from May 23rd with 2 official ICC Cricket World Cup warm-up matches on May 26th against South Africa and on May 28th versus New Zealand. The West Indies opening ICC Cricket World Cup match is against Pakistan, which will be held on May 1st at Trent Bridge. And lastly, in our sports segment, in tennis, Roger Federer returns to the French Open for the first time in 4 years to challenge Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic's bids for more records. Nadal is chasing a record-extending 12th Roland Garros title, while Djokovic can become the first man in the Open era to hold all 4 Grand Slam titles at once for a second time. Federer, 37, missed the 2016 event with a back injury and skipped the past 2 clay court swings to preserve his body. The event in Paris begins on Sunday. Swiss Federer, a 20-time Grand Slam champion, reached the Madrid Open quarterfinals this month in his first clay court tournament in 3 years. He was quoted as saying, "I feel good about my game, I feel good on the clay." Federer appears to have shaken off the leg injury that forced him to pull out of his Italian Open quarterfinal last week, coming through a practice session at Roland Garros on Tuesday without any strapping. Serbia's world number 1 Djokovic is expected to provide the sternest challenge to Spaniard Nadal, while American Serena Williams will aim for a record-equaling 24th Grand Slam singles title in the women's singles. And that's it for sports. The weather is next. Welcome back. Tonight's weather will continue to be partly cloudy with a slight chance of showers. The weather tomorrow will be partly cloudy with a slight chance of showers. The winds are east at 15 to 26 kilometers per hour or 8 to 14 knots and becoming lighter overnight. The seas are 1 to 1.5 meters or 3 to 5 feet. The sunrise tomorrow will be at 5:37 a.m. And that's how we wrap up the major news package for today, Wednesday, 22nd May 2019. Before we go, let's take a look at the headlines once again. Nationally, 4 seasons temporary closure. NIA supports decision to not deduct any monies from employee salaries, and Andrea is first storm of the 2019 hurricane season. Regionally, Liat loses appeal and must pay former employee over US $1.5 million. Internationally, shoes giants urge President Trump to end tariffs. And in sports, Eastern Conference Finals, Toronto Raptors beat Milwaukee Bucks to tie series. On behalf of the rest of the news team, I am Jarvis Bond wishing you a pleasant evening.